Floods, wildfires, a global pandemic. Ever since the clock struck 12 on January 1st, 2020, our newsfeed has been filled with terrifying headlines about the current state of our planet. Our actions as a human race has led us near the point of no return. But the key word there? Near. It's not too late to restore balance to our planet. But in order to do so, we must first look within and ask ourselves, what can I possibly do to brighten our future? But with all the problems that this planet currently has, where do we even start? My guests today are the hosts of the RML Podcast, a show that focuses on social issues and environmental sustainability, and are here today to share with you on how anyone can make a difference for our one and only home. I hope you all learned something new today and enjoy this special episode. Also, I'd like to let you guys know that I'll be taking a quick break from my usual posting schedule until October. By stepping back from the pod, I hope to bring you all the best quality content for the last 3 episodes of Season 3, all of which will be airing 3 weeks in a row throughout the month of October. So without wasting too much of your time, let's hop onto the episode with Earth Friends FM.
That was a hoot!
What is poppin', and welcome to the Rocka's Modern Life Show. My name is Rocka, future veterinarian, ex-varsity athlete, and dude who loves to talk about all things hot in PH pop culture. Despite the name, the show ain't about me, but truly about the unique things that my guests bring to the table, while also providing some quality kalokohan. So buckle up and let's get rockin'. Sup fam? I just got some really exciting news that I want to share with you all before we start the show. I was just able to partner up with Shopee!
As in Chris Aquino Shopee?
As in Jose Mario Chan Shopee? You know it. So now whenever you order using my personalized link, you will be supporting a broke sad vet student, which is me. Get all of the hottest deals for the lowest prices on Shopee by clicking on the link in my description or in my bio. And I know when you don't click it. Also, Resort World Manila, not a sponsored post. Again, I really appreciate the support. So now, let's get into the episode. What's up, girls? Why don't you guys introduce yourself, your profession, and the most useful item in your house right now?
Hello.
Hey.
What's poppin'?
Yeah.
Hey.
What's up,
Brand new
guys?
whip just hopped in.
Wow. Let's
Feeling
get
my rock.
rockin'.
Ooh. Mag-rap na lang kaya tayo. Alright, go for it,
Start,
girls.
why don't you start?
Okay. Hi, I'm Carrie. This is Earth Friends. We are Earth Friends. We are a podcast group that talks about social issues and environmental sustainability. I currently am on a transitionary period to a new job at Paymongo, but I am also part of For the Future with Roque. And yeah, all about the earth, baby.
Represent. What's one, like, the most useful item in your house right now, you would say?
I guess the most useful item is my phone. Sorry,
Yeah.
that's a boring answer, but I can't do anything without my phone.
No,
Like
that's fair.
work or like communication and like
Let's
Gcash
take your
Forest.
Thug.
Yeah.
And since she's going to be transitioning into Paymongo, watch out for Paymongo Forest as well, because I feel like that's gonna be one of her initiatives when she gets in.
Make it
Yeah,
happen,
hopefully.
What about you girls?
Hey,
Why don't you
girls.
introduce yourself?
Cool.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Niki. Right now I'm working as a clinical research coordinator at Dana-Farber, but in the fall I'm going to be moving to New York to get my master's in public health. Oh, I'm so scared for that, but let's see how that goes.
Hey, nice.
you got it. I would say I just got a seaside table. Do you know what that is?
No, what is that?
Seaside table. It's like a table that you can like slide into the couch, so you can like sit on the couch and do work.
Oh.
Sit like in an
Oh.
armchair. Yeah. and then you put it on
Side
your
table
bed.
lang yan. Anong
Ah.
seaside table?
What did you call it? What did you call it?
Seaside table. I don't know. On the
No.
Facebook Market ad, it said seaside table, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get that.
That helps you
so
study.
useful.
right now.
Yeah,
else do you
I can
call it,
study
though?
anywhere.
I
Side
think it's
table.
different because you know how like with the side table, it's like the base is solid. Like this one, the one I have, where my laptop is on right now, like the legs have an opening so you can insert it. So then it's sagad to the chair.
Okay.
That's it.
And is that what you have as well, Nicole? That's
Yeah,
a seaside table?
Yeah, I got that idea. Yup, I got that idea from Gabby.
Oh.
Smart stuff.
Saw it in my
Nice.
apartment, and she was like, "I need that to study for the MCAT."
Yeah, so I can study anywhere.
That's pretty genius, actually. I want to see if we got some of them seaside tables here in the Philippines. I don't know. This is my first time learning about that word too.
Same. Rocket, but if you find it, palink naman on Shopee or wherever.
Oh, Shopee. May Shopee link ako, guys. Just like
Galing,
solo plug, for any of the listeners tuning in. Just hop onto my link and support a broke vet student. Like, how fun is that? But yeah, not to get too carried away with my subtle plugs. Gabby, why don't you introduce yourself and you take it away.
My name is Gabby. I'm working in New York currently as a marketing strategist for an event tech company called Cadence. And I also run their social impact initiatives and CSR. While I don't like that acronym, that's what we call it at the company currently, but working on it. And my most used item in the house is definitely my air fryer. Yeah, I know. I know. A couple of years ago, like we had an air fryer in the house, and it like just started becoming a thing, but it wasn't as used before. But now I think like over the quarantine, and like here in the States, like when you want to just pop something and like you don't want to preheat the oven and stuff, like it's such a good appliance to have. And if you don't want to, what do you call this? Use too much oil. So like anything I want to reheat crispy, like even pizza, like I reheat some like pizza in the oven in the air fryer. Sick.
You reheat pizza in the air fryer?
Yeah.
Wow.
Or you can even like toast bread.
Wow.
Toast
I don't have
bread?
much counter. Yeah, I don't have much counter space, right? And our toaster fits literally like one piece of toast. It's a little cute yellow thing. So then our air fryer, like we use it for everything, like salmon, French fries, and I brought back potato corner powder to put on my air fried French fries.
Game changer.
Yum.
But not to get too carried away with food because I can see Nikki like kind of just salivating already. Like, damn, I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm so hungry.
Why don't we, start the pod as I always do by asking the question, what's poppin'?
What's poppin'?
So girls, what's poppin'?
Can hear the intro music in my head.
Let's just pretend like I have a soundboard and it's just going. Dun, 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 dun.
Girls, you guys go first. You
Anything
guys.
fun? Well, I
No,
have
you
two
guys are in
answers.
New York. Okay, like that's not true.
It ought to be more fun than what we're
Yeah,
doing.
it's ought to be more fun.
So
Gabby, why don't?
boring.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Gabby, you can start.
No.
Nick,
Nikki,
go,
you
go.
already
Nick.
started.
Okay.
Go for it.
So my boring answer would be so I've been studying for the MCAT. It's killing me right now, but it has to get done. I'm gonna take this exam this year. I'm gonna take it this year. And the fun thing that I've been doing with B is I just finished Never Have I Ever. Do you guys watch
So
that?
good.
No, what is that?
So good.
Have I ever?
One
Is
of
it a
my favorite
movie
shows, like,
or a? Oh, it's a show.
the Netflix original series.
What's it about?
Nick.
It's about this like American like Indian girl like living in the States, coming of age movie, like those high school things that we're trying to fit in, the whole boyfriend thing, and then dealing with how her family is
Yeah.
very, how do you explain it? It's like they're very, I don't know how to say,
Conservative.
they're so
Traditional.
very conservative, yeah, traditional, yeah, and
Right.
they're so funny. It's just such a funny show, and it's like 20 minutes, like a fast one.
We're on the same page.
Oh, nice.
Rambutan na lang, thank God.
Basically Google. Oh yeah, I think I've seen this actually, like a trailer on
Mindy
Netflix.
Kaling pala is the
Mm,
producer.
yeah.
Right.
And I think she also wrote the script or something
Wow.
like that.
For sure that's funny then. Is it funny?
Yeah.
Hilarious.
I find myself I just finished I binged the whole season in one day. I was supposed to study and I was
What? How many
up
episodes in one season?
10?
like 10, but it's 29 minutes. It's fast.
Oh
Yeah, it's
yeah,
It's not
super
like
that's
fast.
those
super
long
doable.
ones.
Okay, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's doable. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Two seasons
I know
though.
that situation where you're in, and it's like, oh no, I should really study after this episode, and then like you see that Netflix bar going, and you're just like, oh
Yup.
no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, oh, I'll study while watching it. Totally. I just
Nah.
closed my book. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna give this day to myself.
No,
And
it's
many
good to take a break.
Carrie, Gabby, what's been popping with you guys? What's been keeping you busy?
um
Um, well, there have been a couple of concerts in New York the last couple of days. So
it
that
Concerts? What are concerts? I don't know what
what are
that is.
concerts?
It's been too
what's
long.
that concept?
Concerts during a pandemic?
What? As in more than 10
So
people in one location?
yeah, vaccinate New York, baby. Um,
Sarap.
yeah. But since like I think after we reached the 70% vaccination mark, like that's when the city opened up fully in like the start of July. So that's when all of these DJs started playing again. So Thursday, Diplo played like a surprise set in this
Wow.
new rooftop that I went to with my coworkers and a few friends. And then Friday there was in the super sick venue called Brooklyn Mirage, which is like an out think pool club, but if pool club got it right.
Oh, that's
Right.
true. It is like Pool Club. Oh my
Like
god.
it was a really big, but
is
then
like
like they
Pool
covered
Club.
the walls with like LED screens, so it was like an AV experience that they're launching for like his new show, and then it was like Psycho, Roosevelt, RAC,
Wow.
Wow.
Throwback to High School, and then
Yeah.
and then it was super cool because like they involved like that. So once you enter the venue, you get a wristband that has a QR code, and you register your credit card through the QR code. So when you buy drinks, you just tap your QR code, and they don't take physical credit cards.
Oh my
So like
god.
less also like
Yeah,
contact.
and like you
Living
don't
in the
need to.
future.
Yeah.
Play Mongo Cars.
Yeah nga.
Suggest
Gabs,
that
do you have a
idea.
picture of that QR code by any chance?
No,
or,
I think I
or the name of
do.
that event?
No, I
have
think
the
I
name
do.
of the
I think I have
event.
it.
That's how they do all of the events in Brooklyn Mirage. Because I think it's an event production company called Avant Gardner that puts up all of these like super cool stuff. So I think they're partnered with them to do it.
Wow.
The future.
You guys are living in the future.
Looks like you guys have been living the Big Apple lifestyle, and man, so jealous. But Carrie, what like why don't you share some good Filipino action? Represent Filipino action. Let's go.
Um, Not much has happened recently. I'm actually on vacation leave, but I've been like just chilling at home and reminiscing about, the last 3 years and stuff. I recently finished Down to Earth. Shout out to Zac
So
Efron for being the
good.
best.
Oh, so guapo.
Yeah, he's hotter than our climate
Oh.
ata. Joke lang. Okay, no, that's a super hyperbole.
Good one.
But
Good one.
so good, super good. It's like nice to see, your childhood stars like find more, deeper content to
Purpose.
like to share with others.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also tried this thing. I don't know like if you guys believe in it, but I tried this Reiki healing with
Mm.
my friend Katya Buni. Not sure if you guys know her. She's your
Yeah.
batch ata.
She's a
Yeah,
batch
so
above me, but yeah, I know what Reiki is. That's like kind of it's like with healing with crystals, right? And kind of like reading.
yeah, it's like you're reading or like you're trying to like change the energy of your chakras and stuff. So I made Mickey try it. So you have 7 chakras and like they can tell which areas are, not balanced and stuff. So
Mm.
like they just do some like cool like
Some cool hand
force
juju
field
going
action.
on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like how did you find the experience? Like did it like align with like some of the problems that you've been facing, or like does it just feel good to um you know get your chakras aligned?
Dude, it was Miggy that tried it. I made him try the Reiki healing.
Mm.
But it seemed like he felt more at peace. So I'm probably gonna schedule mine next month.
Hey,
Oh, I'll
nice.
try.
Yeah, it's nice. It's like interesting. So it's like you can find a way to heal yourself, like in times of anxiety and stuff. So that's what the
That's what I
pandemic
need.
actually taught me. I wasn't really much of a meditating person or like, but and mindfulness, but I learned a lot about that. And now recently breath work, like
Mm.
I went to a retreat with Fi and Jelly,
Wim
the flow
Hof.
retreat. Wim Hof. Breath
Yeah,
work is so key.
it's
It's
actually very
like,
key.
yeah, I learned a lot about that.
Yeah, because I mean,
No,
like,
I think it's really like mindfulness in the pandemic, super. Because when we were locked down, when New York used to be the epicenter before, and like
Yeah.
and here naman, like at least when I was home in December, like you have more space to walk around your house and stuff. But here it's like you're in the confines of an apartment
Yeah.
and in like this concrete jungle. So then we really had to like find ways to entertain ourselves. Thankfully for like a bunch of the peak, I was in Jersey, like in the suburbs. But then when I was back in New York and like not going out at all, like you could really feel like the anxiety of being in a confined space. I can only imagine how much worse it was for a lot of other people. But then that's why I like turned to cooking and then even deep breathing.
Mm.
I started also using Palo Santo. Um,
Is that the
like
burning thing?
yeah, it's like a lot of people use white sage, but Palo Santo is like wood, and then you burn it for a bit, and then the smoke like smells really good, and it's supposed to bring like good juju. But I started reading that they're trying to get people to use it less because um going back to like sustainability and like social impact, like it's actually like an ancient practice from um I think I don't want to butcher this and get it wrong, but like South American or like Latin American like tribes. So like on that note of like cultural appropriation and things like that, so I
Right.
have to do
Mm-hmm.
more research. But it
Yeah.
was a gift from one of my coworkers. So then I started using it, and it like I don't know if it was placebo effect, but it made me feel really chill, like pretty zen.
yeah, no, and I'm sure like it added to like the whole room atmosphere because, like you said, like especially at the start of the pandemic, there's like so much uncertainty, there's so much anxiety going through your head, and like whether it's like using incense to kind of chill out the mood or breathworks or finding meditation, we all had to go through our own like self coping mechanisms, and like I think for me, one of them was like watching nature documentaries because like
Mm-hmm.
especially being confined in like four walls and like like seeing the same people every day. I mean, I love my family, but then like it just seemed like almost like a Twilight Zone thing where it's like you don't
Mm-hmm.
even
Yeah.
can't even differentiate the days anymore. And I think
Yeah.
that's what I what I said in my last podcast with Gabbi. That's like one of the few good things I think that came from the pandemic is really just realigning with yourself and trying to
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
remind yourself of what really matters to you. Like what is your calling, what's your passion, what's your advocacy, and that's one of the things that um, I'm pretty sure that you guys realized throughout the pandemic because you guys started a podcast like throughout the pandemic. You guys made Earth friends throughout this experience, and
Exactly.
and this is like a perfect segue for me to ask you guys like what was that moment or piece of content that inspired you to make a difference, or for them young Gen Z TikTokers out there, your woke moment.
Well, so I guess like the the story started when so I watched Sir David Attenborough's A Life on Our Planet last year, and I think it was around November. And in I don't know if you felt this too, Rocco, and you were watching these documentaries. I don't know which kind they were, but then with a lot of the ones that are centered around like environmental sustainability, they feel very like um sad in the end because you watch this whole informational piece of work that tells you about like shit, everything's going to shit, literally.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but with David Attenborough's, he had like five very concrete, I don't know if it was five, but like very concrete steps, like calls to action and steps about how to turn the world around and like what we can do. So after that, I was like, I just want to learn more specifically about renewable energy. And then Carrie is a really good friend of my older sister from college. So then my sister was like, "Why don't you talk to her?" And I knew Nikki and I always like align on wanting to do something like active and like within social impact space and now environmental sustainability. So then I had separate calls with both of them, and I was saying that I was interviewing more and more people just on the side on Zoom, and like then the three of us got together on one Zoom with another friend of ours, and then just hit it off really well. And then that's kind of how it started. So we just started to interview more people together. And then one day Carrie made a joke and was like, parang sayang all our calls that we're having with these really intelligent people. Let's just start a podcast na lang. And I was like, hey, parang that was a great idea. Like, why not? Like, I want more people to hear the conversations we're having with these people because it's so useful.
Mm-hmm.
And then bam, 1 month later, we really recorded our first episode.
That's awesome, girls. And like, just to think that one documentary could like bring, could spark like an entire new concept, an entire podcast just from that. And you know, I just learned a while ago that Carrie and Nikki have not even met in real life, and the fact that they've
Yeah.
been able to connect and share ideas and find, you know, like-minded individuals, that must have been like, what are the odds of that? And I'm just curious, like, was the Life on Our Planet documentary on Netflix what really kind of motivated you or impacted you to start working for your advocacy? Because I know that Carrie, like, you know, we both are part of For the Future, so I knew that she was always trying to, you know, do her part in trying to make this world a better place. But what about for you girls? Like, was there any, was that the kind of like glass breaking moment for you, like when you watched that documentary, or was there another experience in the past that you guys might have like went through that kind of opened your eyes to these real world problems?
Nikki,
I would say like, you know, living in the city, living in an urban area where everything is so fast paced and everything's just moving forward, and like you just buy into that lifestyle, like you forget like your surroundings. And I feel like during quarantine, that's when like everything stopped, everything like took a
Mm-hmm.
pause. And that's like when I started like reflecting on how I like live my life. Like before, I used to like Uber everywhere. I was like team Uber. And I would just yeah, literally Uber everywhere. They're like, where are you? I was like, oh, I'm in the Uber. Like, you could have just like walked, or you could have took the T or the subway. And I'm just like, nah. If I took that, I would have been late. I just like realized like my lifestyle was so destructive. And like during quarantines, like what made me realize like I need to stop, like I need to slow down and like change like what I buy, change how I like commute now. And like I would say that was like my woke moment, because especially like everything in the news, like during quarantine, all I was doing just watching the news. Everything's like negative,
Yeah.
Right.
forest burning, and like so many things are happening. And I was just like, wow, like I need to like get out of my lane and like start seeing everything else from like a bigger picture. And like that's when me and Gabby started like FaceTiming every day and like talking like, oh, like did you see what happened in the news? Like, oh, it's so sad how we can't really do anything or make a huge impact because like we're here all the way in the States, and like all we can do right now is just like educate ourselves, like learn.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how it all started, like us like interviewing other people, and then Carrie coming in, just started from there.
Yeah, it was just a research group, honestly.
Yeah.
We were a research group just sending links and geeking
Yeah.
out about different topics. You know, in relation to what Nikki said, like I super agree with, you know, like reassessing all of your life decisions that you've made before ever since you realized how individual impacts matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like I used to take a trike. Like my school was like Ateneo was right in front of my condo, and I'd still take a trike. It was so bad every day, and I'm sure, and you know, the only implication that I considered then was, you know, the cost. And I used to
Mm-hmm.
like buy a lot of bottle of water, and I used to think that it was sustainable that I got bulk. I got the bigger one over the smaller one. So it's like not knowing these things or not acknowledging them is such a blind spot for people, and that's why I think it's important for people who know about it to share, because you could help someone, like break the glass and see that you're part of the like solution. You're not
Mhm.
like not instead of the problem, just by knowing what your impact does to everything else. So yeah,
No.
I guess that's also one of the things that you reflect on during quarantine, when you're like confined in a room and you feel like you can't do much.
Mhm.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
guess it was a stress relieving thing for the good of it.
Yeah, and I completely agree with that because prior to like even starting the podcast or joining FTF, like the first step was really to educate yourself. And although you
Mhm.
think that, you can't really make a difference, by educating yourself, by knowing more about it and sharing it from like whether it in like very officially in a podcast form like this, or even just a simple conversation with like your siblings or your parents, it might like shift someone's perspective like completely of
Yeah.
Yeah.
how your consumption is, and like how, like especially with like the numbers that you can present to people by being educated. That's like a tangible way to explain things, because I mean honestly the whole concept of carbon footprint can get very confusing. Even I like find it a little
Mhm.
bit confusing until today. So like, but if you break it down like to like water consumption or like food waste or like
Yeah.
all of these other things, like just to break it down to smaller bite-sized components, it could really change someone's whole perspective on how they're living their lives.
Yeah, and I think that's a super important point to make, Rocky, like about sustainability. Like I think it's a very overwhelming
Mhm.
Yeah.
sorry, it seems like a very overwhelming topic to get educated on, because like there's so many things to learn, and and it can be intimidating. And I think that's what stops a lot of people from trying to start getting into it. Like we have a lot of friends when we just launched the podcast that were like super excited because they were like, we don't know where to start, but we wanted to. And I think that was the goal for us, was just to make it more simple, more fun, and like more digestible. Like this does not have to be in any way. You don't have to be an expert. Like none of us claim to be on our podcast
Mm,
either, and you can always, like I think Kyrie, you're the one who said it. You can always learn or unlearn things that
Mhm.
you thought you knew, and I think that was definitely the process for all of us. And like for me specifically, like when I think before the pandemic, I was still very conscious about it. I think my journey with all of it started with social impact more,
mm,
like in high school, but then in college, when I took a class on environmental sustainability and food systems, that was really, I think, my turning point. Like I was the biggest carnivore. Um, Probably everyone probably knew, like I was not a veggie eater, and I'm still working on that now. But then
Gabby
I've
doesn't eat
definitely,
greens. Just
yeah,
kidding.
but I've definitely come leaps and bounds from when I started before. But then in college, like we had to watch a couple of documentaries on Netflix too, and then just actually planted stuff and studied food systems and things like that. And like I think being in a class with other people who were interested in it, from like other people who were just taking the class because it was a required. You have to take a required
Yeah.
science, and then so you have those seniors who are just like, I'm here for the credit, and then other people who are like, no, I am really interested in sustainability. He made the class format so fun, where we even got to taste test all of these different alternative food alternatives and products. So I think, and like learning about the direct impact that us humans make, like this is not a
Mm,
natural occurrence, and then seeing
yeah.
it and correlating that,
Yeah.
like I know we joke a lot of the time when it's too hot, it's like, oh, it's climate change, or like
Mm,
there were a couple of winters in Boston that are supposed to be really bad, and we had no snow, or very delayed snow. So I think putting two and two together to see what we're studying come to life, and understanding that that's because of human waste and pollution and
mm,
our own actions. Like there's also the argument that, like, it's all the big companies that need to be reversing it, and like individual impact, like that's what a lot of people blame. They're like, what's one bottle of water gonna do versus
mhm.
like these big oil companies that are exploding pipelines in the middle of the ocean. Like, but I
Yeah.
feel like it's the same argument with elections coming up. Like, what's one
Mm,
vote gonna do?
right.
Blah blah blah. But like, it has to start somewhere. And like, why not? Like, why not um start somewhere, start small.
Yeah. And that's actually a very like key word that you said there. Start small because like oftentimes people think that like okay, I'm gonna live sustainably. I'm not gonna eat any more meat. I'm gonna make my carbon footprint zero for the rest of my life, and then you're basically kind of just setting yourself up for failure because if you didn't live that
Yeah.
way your entire life prior, you're probably not going to be able to succeed like doing a complete 180 for the rest of your
Yeah.
life. So it's really not going to be a straight line. Like there going to be some days where you're going to have to buy a bottle of water, or like if the only
Yes.
like for me, like the only food served at home is meat. Like what am I gonna do? Just not eat? Like eat rice lang? Like no, no man. Like you gotta like
Yeah.
learn how to assess. But then for me, I think it's like if you can, if you, for me, one of my rules is if you have the choice to choose between two things, and why don't you just choose the more sustainable one? Why don't you opt to go plant based? If you're gonna eat in Burger King and they have the what's it called
Impossible
Impossible
burger.
Burger, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
You guys talked about that also in your last podcast. Super
Yeah.
tasty, super good. Yeah, why not like just go for that? And it's those small changes because although you might think that what's one like meat burger gonna do? They produce like hundreds a year. What's one like water bottle? It's not that single one water bottle. It's the system that you're trying to change in your life. It's like the
And the
lasting.
mindset.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, like
Yeah.
um
Yeah, I don't think, and I think I want to that like great segue into I think the point I want to make too is that it's not a one size fits all solution.
right.
Like in one of our other episodes with Dara Santos, like we were talking about how a vegan diet or a vegetarian diet in the Philippines for the mass population is not sustainable. Because veggies are so much harder to come by and so much more expensive than if they had their own meat that they can slaughter themselves,
Right.
which is probably even more sustainable because it's in their own home. They raised it like
It's
on a,
local.
and
Yeah,
it's
it's
also like
localized
it's
talaga.
local.
Mm-hmm.
So like the nutrition that you can get for the cost you can get it at, that's also factored into it. And I think that's why sometimes with environmental sustainability or like sustainability in general, people don't take into consideration um economic sustainability and all that stuff. So I think living sustainably should be sustainable for you.
Exactly. Yeah, super well said. And it's like you can't, judge people for doing a certain thing a certain way because like you have to take it out of context, and it's not, yeah, like you can't really promise yourself that you're never gonna buy a bottle of water again. It's not like you can, like if a restaurant like like gives you a straw, it's not like, it's the end of the world. It's just like that thing at the back of your head, like that you are aware of that specific, impact. Like it will really open your options to another, consider, it will make you consider more alternatives. Like for example, it won't just be like the cost that will drive you to purchasing an item. It will also, you'll also want to do that, like due diligence to research about the company, like have that extra like mile because you're curious to see like the impact.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or even like asking yourself like, do I actually need this?
Yeah.
No,
No,
yeah.
I completely agree. Because like now, every time I throw something, I always feel guilty. I'm like, okay, can I really throw this out? Is there anything I can do with this? Like, what else can I do with it?
Yeah.
So I leave it on the counter, and it's gonna sit there for days. I'm like, okay, I haven't figured it out yet, but let's see next week. Like
I
I
super
washed it,
feel that.
I washed it, and I just leave it. Like, okay, I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna do with it. Like, I don't want to throw it out yet.
Feels.
Yeah,
Super
guilt trip
feels.
ako. I'm just like, ayoko matapon to. But
But yeah, it's just that overall consciousness that you get, and that all stems from curiosity. So we were all there in that stage where we were like thinking, like, how can I, change my impact on this planet? And if you're listening to this podcast right now, it's already a great first step to take. Like, even if you don't live sustainable at all, or you don't think you do, like the fact that you clicked on this podcast and tried to learn more about it is the first step. And then next step is getting educated and being more educated with your decisions. When you do have the option, or like when things are under your control, then you can make more mindful decisions. And it's just great, like what you can learn from other people as well, like in this these like podcast setups, and I'm pretty sure that you guys have learned a lot also just from your first 8 episodes from these experts that you've been interviewing, just trying to pick their brain a little bit more. And that just goes back to the whole curiosity which started it all. Pstoy, you. Yeah, you. The one there making your morning coffee or getting your daily exercise in. Don't you think that it's time for that new French press or a new set of workout clothes? Don't you feel like you deserve something fresh, something exciting? Cause I sure do. So why don't you hop onto Shopee to avail of the non-stop sales that have been going on for as long as Juan Ponce Enrile has been alive, which is a really long time. Everything from coffee paraphernalia to home workout equipment.
We've got it all for you.
And the best part is, I was lucky enough to partner up with Shopee to keep you updated with all of the hottest sales. But wait. Before you skip this ad, let me be real with y'all. As you know, I'm a broke full-time vet student, and I do this podcast to keep you, my friends and family, informed about the hot topics here in the PH and the industry leaders involved with them. The main reason I started this podcast was to educate and entertain people, and I hope you're learning something new in this episode. So if you enjoy this podcast, it would mean the world to me if you used my Shopee link to keep these episodes coming. All you have to do is to check the description down below or the tap link in my bio to access my personal link. If you're anyone like me, you've probably got tons of items in your cart. So go to Shopee, treat yourself with something new, and support this podcast. Like the beautiful and unwithering Chris Aquino once said, "Shop na!" You guys just finished your first season of Earth Friends FM, which congratulations, by the way. Amazing podcast.
Yay.
If you listeners haven't checked it out yet, please like do so right after this podcast. They put great content out there. And I just wanted to ask you guys, like with your first season in the books, what are some key takeaways that you have learned from your guests about the environment or social issues or even about each other or yourself?
Well, it was my first time podcast. It's our first time podcasting, I think, all three of us. So,
Yeah.
on top of, like the technical, like aspect to producing a podcast, I guess the common denominator that all our guests had in common was that to be in this circle, or to be environmentally aware, you to do it full time, you need to be passionate, and I saw that in all our guests. It's a full time, endeavor that they have to be super passionate about, because it doesn't normally take the same amount of time to come up with, the reflections that they would end up in their field, because they're trying to revamp a system, so it takes a lot more time and patience, and
And the
like,
landscape is changing. So they have to
yes,
continuously, again, learn and unlearn things they thought they knew, because the science changes every day.
yeah. And it's nice that we were able to kind of like dip our toes into different fields of sustainability. Tara with climate activism, which is super important. Circular
Plastic
economy,
Mhm.
plastic pollution. So it was at the very best, since it's our first podcast, like we learned a lot of, insightful things from our guests, for sure.
Yeah. And I think like with all of them, like we hit the surface of each of the topics I think we were interested in, and then but on a more personal note, I think like starting a podcast, as I'm sure you know, Rocket, is not easy. Like I think we assume that like, oh, we interview people, this is just gonna be the same format. Not at all. Like I think the first episode that was just the three of us. We had to tape so many times because we're like, wow, we sound so awkward and
Yeah,
so
it was
dead, and
It's
like
Team
always
Lambanog,
weird
dude.
hearing
It had to open,
yeah,
it had to break some ice here. Like, we sounded like we were, we
Robots.
sounded like we were
thoughts
giving
before
graduation
we
rites na, dude.
we
I
had
don't
big
know, it sounded
thoughts
too
before we
formal.
recorded. As in, I was like, Carrie was in the, like not at home, and I was like, what alcohol do you have there? Take a shot. That's why she opened lambanog. I was like, okay, pwede na yan.
No, I super get you
But
guys. Like for the longest time, I would have to drink like when I'm doing a podcast. Like more often than not, actually, especially if I don't know who I'm interviewing. Like if it's the first time that I'm gonna be talking to them, I have to have a drink in my hand because it was just so weird. Like hearing yourself and
Yeah.
like just
uh,
like you have like full control of the tempo, like the path of the conversation. So it's like so much pressure. Like for me, like when I was like too sober doing it, I'd like stutter and all that. So like anything to get you a little bit more loosey goosey.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's for
liquid
sure.
courage, for sure. But like,
What?
I think so I was like, wow, like the TV talk show hosts and things like that, like they make it look so easy, but it's
Right.
not. And
Di ko
I
kaya.
think even after like 6, 7 episodes, like we're taking a break after the first season because we're like, okay, we need to reassess. Like we need to work on our craft.
Mhm.
But
Yes.
Content.
hopefully with time, we can definitely improve and like hit the goals we want. But it's to echo what Carrie was saying about our guests. Like it more than anything for me, it's like super inspiring to talk to people and like build this community around people who we can have these conversations with because it's not as big a community yet, but then it's definitely growing and it's so fun to learn from people who clearly live this out every day and then it re-inspires us to like up our game too.
Yeah.
No, I super agree with that. What about you, Nikki? Any key takeaways or insights from season one?
I feel like whenever we ask them at the end, like, how can we turn this world around or change this world around? I feel like the main theme that they all said is like starting small. Like that really solidified with me. Like
Yes.
your everyday actions and choices really does have an impact because like you will inspire other people. Like, do you guys remember like firing that pyramid scheme of kindness? Like if you do a kind act to someone and then that person will also do a kind act to another people and it just spreads. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's what we're doing now with like inspiring other people to like choose sustainable choices and practices. Like do you really want to buy that water bottle right now? If you have like your jug with you, like you can just like refill it somewhere else, or like trying to switch your products. Like right now I'm trying to like finish all like my shampoos and like soaps and trying to switch the like bar soap and like bar shampoo because like I realized like my bathroom's filled with so many like plastic. So at least like yup. So I'm like trying to like slowly like finish my stuff so I can like purchase like the right like products now that are actually sustainable.
Right.
So that just solidified it because like a lot of everyone tells me like a lot of my like friends here were saying like, oh, like our one small act like won't even make a difference. Like those big companies are the ones who's doing it. Like they have to change their ways. Like why do we have to do it? And like it just breaks my heart sometimes, but I'm slowly trying to convince them. Like I was able to convince my roommates to stop using plastic water bottles because they buy it in bulk from like Costco. And that's
Right.
literally their jug. And I was like, get a jug, get a water bottle. I was like, I gave her a water bottle. I was like, here's a water bottle, use it. Don't use the plastic ones. So that's really, and they stopped. Like they messaged me like, look, Nikki, here's my water bottle with me. I
Oh
stopped
my
bringing the
God.
plastic one around. I'm like,
Aw.
yay.
No, literally, exactly. I was like, sometimes I feel like when we have these conversations with people who aren't like the same mindset, like it can be kind of kakasawa for them to listen to because like I'll point it out sometimes and not in an annoying way. I'll just be like, if they're carrying around, I was like, oh, you should get a water bottle or something like that. But then like my cousin's so funny. My cousin's girlfriend, like didn't know anything about it too. So then once I started to talk, it comes up naturally as well. But then recently she made like an online, she went online shopping, and whenever she does something that's sustainable or like whatever, she'll send me a photo. So I think that pyramid scheme is real. Like it
Yeah.
takes one and then they'll spread it too. And like it's funny sometimes and also like kind of killing. Like they'll think of you when they do this and you know that like you got to one person, if anything. But so she went online shopping and then there was an option to pay a little bit more to use a reusable to use reusable packaging for the order. So I forgot what it's called, but it's super cool. So then it comes in this like it looks like a rice sack almost, and then
Okay.
you just drop it in any USPS like postal service mailbox, which they have on all of these street corners, and send it back.
Oh.
wow.
So she took a picture and she was like, um, or my cousin was like, props on the reusable packaging at Feds. And then she's like, Gabby, no, not gonna lie. I like you popped in my head when I saw this option and I had to get it. And I was like, at least, I was like, I was super happy about it. And I think those little things that like it starts there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's just also finding ways to, make sustainability a little bit more enjoyable, because by sharing it with your friends, by kind of building a community, it can always be fun. Like it doesn't have to be this so intimidating and daunting thing where it's like you have to buy into sustainability, or if not, you're gonna kill like a sea turtle or something like that. Like it's not, it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be so drastic. You could like make these small changes each day, and like if you do that each year, that's like you're 365 times more sustainable than you were last year, so it's like it's
Yeah, like
really a compound, yeah, it's a compound effect. And it's, you could, there are ways to inspire others in a fun way, in not such a serious manner. And which leads me actually to my other question is, how can one make a sustainable lifestyle more enjoyable? Like, we mentioned earlier with like the G forest, how that's a new trend going on where you could like build your own forest, and then you can compare it with your friends, like, oh, mine's bigger than yours. And then it's like, you're trying to make it like a competition. Like there are
No,
like
it's legit.
yeah, it's
It's
legit.
so legit. Yeah.
Expound on it, Carrie, since you're the master of G Forest.
Okay, no, I'm not the master anymore because my office mates whom I've encouraged to do Gcash Forest have surpassed me.
Oh
Like they
wow.
really check. They're like checking the times, and I was like, okay, okay, I'ma just like let you win the spot for now. But I guess the first like thing to make sustainability more enjoyable, less of a burden and more of like a habit, is to really avoid the call out culture. Like you
Mm,
won't get anywhere if you literally see someone in a plastic straw and say like, hey, that's bad. Like, I mean, it's not like you're not gonna be sparking any change by
right.
judging someone for
Mm-hmm.
like what they're doing, or like if they're eating meat. Like, you're not gonna like go to their table and just be like, oh, what's that? Like, it's not like it's malabo, dude. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like more of like as Gabby mentioned, or like what Nikki said, like when they inspire someone to like use a water bottle, or inspire someone to consider reusable packaging, because normally you wouldn't pay extra for something that won't benefit you, but like
Mm-hmm.
if you know that, you would try to make that effort. But it's more of that encouraging like factor. Like these people reached out to Nikki and Gabby and me because like they felt like, they would have some sense of encouragement from, spreading the word, or like
Mm-hmm.
paying it forward in that sense. So the first really is just not to like be that person to just judge all the time, because like as we mentioned earlier in the conversation, you can't, there's no one size that fits all. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
just because you buy a sustainable product doesn't mean that you're sustainable. It's really a mindset. Like you could say that you're sustainable and buy like 10 toothbrushes and just hoard, and like it's just not gonna make sense. So it's just more of making it like fun, like
Mm-hmm.
making it part of your life that people are interested in. Like I just put a plastic bottle on my desk, and people would be like, what's that? And they would suddenly care more about the plastic that they'd consume. And then the next week that I'd come to my office, it's like a whole plastic bag for my office mates full of plastic. And they're like, oh, you're a basurera na. And then I'm like, yeah, syempre.
yeah, I completely echo Carrie's statement. Like I was just gonna say
Yeah.
earlier, it's like I really don't. I'm not a fan of call out and cancel culture in general. I believe in holding people accountable for their actions,
Yes.
100%. But like I think when it comes to sustainability, it's disencouraged. Is that a word? Disencouraging
Discouraging.
when discouraging.
Mhm.
Good morning. But it's
Good morning.
discouraging when like example for me, like I feel like since we started this podcast, or since I've been more vocal about it, like I'm a pretty private person, but like since we started the podcast, I feel like a lot of my actions are now being scrutinized when it comes to sustainability. Like if I post or story like a really good steak, I'll be like, shit, people are thinking like, oh, what's she doing eating a steak or whatever. But then for me,
It's
it's like,
only at the back of your head, no? I also
Yeah.
feel that,
yeah,
honestly. It's such
Yeah.
a it's
Because you're the
such a
always gonna be
weird
the
like,
harshest critic.
yeah.
Mm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. That's true. And I think for me, it's like while I've significantly reduced my meat intake, it started small. Like I didn't go from 0 to 100 because that was gonna be really hard for me. But then it was finding new ways to make for me with cooking, like cooking things that and learning new recipes that didn't involve um that were healthy one and like more clean, but also didn't involve
Yeah.
as much meat. And then once I started, like I was like, wow, this is actually easier than I thought. And it could be fun and it still tastes great. So that was my step one. But then the other one was also like Carrie, like with her basurero life. But mine was like when I was furnishing this apartment and like when I started moving, like going on Facebook Marketplace and like
Love it.
repurposing stuff to make things look to like give it new life. So
Right.
like here,
Uy, may
um,
sample. For
this is
the
like
for
Wow.
the
my
viewers that
sample
are checking
sample.
it out on
Yeah.
YouTube, if you're listening to this on Spotify, head on over to YouTube so you can see what Gabby's holding up. So plug, so plug.
But yeah, but so this is an old wine bottle. So it was like, oh, like the label's cute, like the pink, and then like we used this. These flowers have been like this for 4 months. So what we did was we one day I was like, oh, I want to put flowers in the house. But I was like, so me and my roommate, what we did was before they died, like we took it out of the water so it would dry. And then dried flowers last super long. So then it's been there for the whole time. It looks fake. It's like when people come over, they're like, what the heck, it's still there. It's like, yeah, it's just dried. And so repurposing that and then Facebook Marketplace, so fun. Like when you look and you never know what you're gonna find. And then and then you give other people's trash like a second life.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this, I can't show and tell this, but then we have like a really cool wooden chest that's like distressed and painted on. Um but it like we were buying like desk chairs from someone and she was moving to Hawaii, so she was getting rid of all her stuff and then she was flying out that evening, so she's like, just take whatever you want aside from
Wow.
the thing. So it's super cute. And then now thrifting and like going secondhand shopping, like I know it's like super trendy as well, but like it's also like so much more fun to buy something that no one else is gonna have
Mm.
and that it's sick, and
Yeah.
then and it's technically someone else is like just giving it away. But
Right.
so I think doing things that match your interests
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah.
and trying to adapt those practices. Like I tried also last night. Like I tried growing my own like regrowing veggies, which is super easy. Like I think that's a great like step one for a lot of people, especially in Manila, like where there's so much natural sunlight. Like
Mm-hmm.
regrowing spring onions, basil, in water,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
so easy.
Yeah, Rocken knows all about that.
Yeah, I'm the propagating master. No, but
Yeah.
no, but real talk, guys. Like that's one of my like weak, like weak sides. Like I mean, I love nature. I'm a vet student, so I really care about our environment. But man, there's just something about growing plants that just does not work with me. Like I actually have a leopard gecko, and I just recently made his tank bioactive. So that's like it has like a soil
Ew.
substrate, and then I put in a couple of snake plants too, because it was like my way of transitioning into a plantito. But dude, like my plants are just dying on
Is
me.
this aqua plantito?
No, 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 no. It's my leopard gecko. So it's like it's a soil kind of enclosure,
Oh, right,
and then I
right,
put
yeah.
like some snake plants in there. Not doing so well, honestly. Like not gonna sugarcoat it or anything, but it's the whole process of learning. I'm just learning out here, and it's fun. Like I find it like really challenging to try to make sure that the moisture is right, like to make sure that the UV is like hitting the plants in the right levels, because like some of my plants, like they don't do so well right under the UV light, and then some of them do well
Yeah.
like a little bit away from it. It's just so complicated and so complex, but I'm enjoying it because I'm learning a little bit more, and hopefully one day I can be a plantito. And that's just kind of my fun way of trying to learn more about plants. And although I suck
Talk
at
to your
the moment,
plants, Rocket.
yeah nga eh,
Yeah,
parang
you do.
I need to have a
Baka they're
more
not getting enough
conversation.
love.
Dude, actually, maybe my leopard
Baka
gecko
kay
is like
Zuko
stealing
lahat, dude.
Oo nga, oo nga. But see, I'm still learning, and it's like my fun outlet of it. But what about you, Nikki? How have you been, like just practicing more environmental awareness or sustainability in your life, like in a fun manner?
Mm. So I think I'm a creature of habit.
Right.
So that's why I think so. I'm really a creature of
Understatement the
habit.
century.
Yeah. And like I just realized like getting out of my comfort zone and just trying something new was the right thing to do, and it was what made sustainable like lifestyle more enjoyable. Like for example, me and my roommate started like biking. We got into biking, and it's so
Whoa.
fun to bike. Like we bike around like the Charles River. That's a good way to get like your
Wow.
workout in, and just like enjoying, like just looking up at the sky, enjoying nature, and like seeing everyone just out and about, like just laying down in the grass. That just made me like and wanted to like choose sustainable practices more, because it reminded me like, okay, like me choosing to buy this product over the other is the right thing, because I'm supporting like nature, because like I don't want to damage things anymore, like I'm done. And I just and just like reminding yourself why you're doing it, like just going outside, like get out of your house, breathe the fresh air and look up in the sky. Like I would say that's how
Yes.
you'll like make it more enjoyable, because you're reminding yourself why you're doing it.
Right. Yeah. Like you always have to go back to the root cause of why you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it. And like you guys said earlier, there's no clear-cut way to practice sustainability or environmental awareness. There's so many different ways to approach it, whether it's focusing on the meat you consume, your
Mm-hmm.
modes of transportation, even just like me, like trying to get into plants. It's like
Yeah.
there's so many different avenues that you can take just to be more aware of the issues that we have, because they're real, guys. Like, for like there are literally evidence that's going on around the world that can prove that climate change is real. It's not just something that people are making up. Like a couple of I think last week there was like a really bad flood in Germany because due to heavy
Yes.
rainfall. And this is Germany. It's not a tropical country. They don't
Mm-hmm.
usually experience like this level of
Yeah.
downpour like that. And there's just so many like real life instances where we could like you know take note of that and just try to be more aware and more conscious with our decisions. And it doesn't need to be like an entirely life changing
Mm-hmm.
practice. And like we all had like all four of us, we had different ways of how we could practice sustainability a little bit more in our lives. And I guess to wrap up the pod, I want to ask you guys, what is one thing that anyone can do in on a daily basis to help out the earth a little bit more, whether it's going out for a walk in nature or just switching from plastic bottles to a water jug. Like, what is like the simplest thing that you think anyone can do, no matter like what economic background or what history or like your life circumstances are like? 'Cause, for me, it's like the simplest act of just turning off the faucet while
Mm-hmm.
I'm soaping. So like I'm taking a
Yeah.
shower. Before I used to like while I'm shampooing, just like step a little bit to the side wherein the water's not hitting my head and
Yeah.
continue shampooing. But then now like trying to be a little bit more conscious, turn it off for a bit. Even if I get that
Mm-hmm.
extra 3 seconds of cold, like when it turns back on, like it's worth it.
Yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
about you guys?
It's like the question that we ask our guests has been turned back to us, and now we
Literally.
know how hard the
Exactly,
question is
exactly.
pala.
No pressure though. No pressure. It could be like the big changes or the smallest changes you could think of. You know, switching from batteries to rechargeable batteries, or like for me, my clock literally just died. So I'm probably gonna order from Shopee, although it's like another buying thing. But then for me, the way that I think about it, if I switch to a rechargeable clock or like something that runs on like USB, then that's how many sets of batteries that I'm saving in the future that I won't need to
Yeah.
necessarily be spending on anymore. Or like the waste also of batteries. It really piles up. So yeah, just like these little things. Like, do you
Yeah.
guys have any in mind?
I guess I could just wrap up my like advice into three words. Number one, it's just to be grateful. Like everything you
Mm-hmm.
have, like be super grateful. It all came from somewhere. Resources were needed for it to get to you. So whatever like you have, just be grateful, and also be mindful. Like with that gratitude, you become mindful that that came from somewhere. Someone had to do it. It came from some like place. Like let's say how far it was. Like just being mindful that um, how that place got you, and of course mindful of how that will leave you, like once it's life, I mean once it doesn't serve you anymore. And I guess the last one is really just to invest in your future. Like
Mm.
it's not it like it seems super hard. Like, I find myself like having a difficult time also to, choose the cheapest route at this point. But just making sure that at the back of your mind, like there's a greater purpose to, choosing a greener path, which may cost more at the present but will benefit you in the future. I guess that will work well also in a non-sustainable or non-environmental related like aspect in your life. Like just, you're, of course you're living in the now, but you're also serving a greater purpose for like the future, your future, the future, the next generation, and like so on.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
great. I
sad,
couldn't have said it
Carrie.
any better. Yeah. You girls?
Nick,
I
I'm
would
still thinking.
say, I would say, like I have a reusable, like I have like a little pouch with reusable things inside, so a reusable bag, utensils, straw. So I would just say like we always have our bags with us. At least add one pouch that that you can add all those things. So like whenever, because like you never know when you need like a spoon and fork. You don't want to
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
use like a single use one. At least you have a reusable one in your bag. Like don't buy a reusable one. Just you get a spoon and fork from your kitchen and just wrap it and then put
Yeah.
it in your bag. And then a reusable bag, like at work, I gave like all my coworkers a reusable bag for Christmas.
Oh, that's
And
so
then it's
cute.
yeah, and it's so cute because I see them like using it all the time. Like whenever they're buying food, I see them dump in. They're using it, like Nicole, like thanks for this bag, and I'm like, oh, no
Oh.
problem.
Yeah.
So I feel like just having like a pouch in your bag that has a reusable bag, utensils, reusable straw, and just leave it there because you never know when you need it.
True.
Small steps.
Good gift also.
Yeah, that's a good
Yeah.
gift.
Yeah.
Thanks for the idea.
I think,
Oh.
yeah. I think for me, I don't fare well with like ultimate questions, but I think I think maybe with in attuned to like a mindset and like what Karis was saying, I think you ask yourself, try to ask yourself two questions whenever making a purchase.
Mm.
How long are you gonna use this, and do I really need it?
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's one thing that really shifted my mindset during our episodes was that one of our guests was like, before you buy something that is a more sustainable alternative, like make use of something you already have till
Mm-hmm.
its lifespan. Because then you accumulate more waste by having two products or accumulating more waste in general for things you don't really need. And
Yeah.
that is just as bad as like the pollution and like waste you're already creating if you just continue to buy more things that you don't really need or that you'll dispose of super soon. So like the same thing with like quality over quantity, like things that are cheap but will last you like 10 days or like really really short, like maybe a couple of months. If you buy something like investing in your future, literally too, like if you buy something that's gonna live longer, like that rechargeable clock. um
Mm-hmm.
I think like those two questions, like do I really need this and how long will this serve me?
Yeah, and I completely agree with what all three of you girls said because the biggest thing is to really start small, and it really is just a mindset. So it starts off with curiosity. Like try to do your own research because there's so many different avenues that you can take to
Mm-hmm.
change to impact the world. Like for me, my advocacy is animals, so I wanna like my interest is really like with wildlife, and it's not just because they look cool, it's because they're integral to our world's health. And
Yeah.
there's like this concept that I was taught like in my first semester, which is called One Health, and it's the concept of a healthy um society, a healthy ecosystem, and um shucks, I can't remember the third one. But like human health, animal health, and environmental health. So
Mm.
it's really there's so many different like aspects that you could tackle. So what if you resonate more with social issues, whether it's education or poverty, like that could be your route. Or like if you're someone like me with animals, then there's so many different ways that you can approach it. It's really just all about a mindset, that trying to make our earth better, because we're the ones that are gonna live through it. Like these boomers, they mess it up, but then the reason why they don't really care is because they're gonna be gone by the time that they really experience these things. And
Yeah.
one thing that I always like to remind, like, well, my friends and myself, is that it's really not about just saving our planet. It's also about saving ourselves, because at the end of the day, we're ultimately bound by this finite world with finite resources that we have here. And if there's no Earth, then there's no us. So, just try to be curious, find what resonates with you, and just work small. And you know, it's a really collective effect. And if we could all find our different advocacies, then we could definitely make this world a better place. So I just want to wrap up the pod by saying thank you, girls, so much for joining me on today's Rockets Modern Life episode. Like, I find it so badass that you guys are doing this Earth Friends FM, and it's really cool that you guys are sharing these types of information for people that want to get started. But before I go, I think now would be a perfect time for you guys to plug where people can find you or the work that you do.
Yeah, we have an Instagram, earthfriends.fm, and our podcast is called Earth Friends. It's on Spotify, Google, what else?
Apple Podcasts.
Wherever you can
All
get
the
this podcast.
platforms.
Yeah, you can find theirs.
Yeah. Rock is our mentor.
Yeah,
Wow.
Rock is our main guy. Like, my mic is
Pod
from
mentor.
Rocket.
Stop it, guys.
The main podcast, consultant.
Aside from our Instagram, I think we learn a lot too. I know we mentioned it a couple times. Like, education is the best resource and probably the best first step. So there are a couple of Instagrams also that we follow on Earth Friends. So if you go to our Instagram and check who we follow, they're amazing resources as well for let's share very easy eco tips to start small.
Right. And what about any personal accounts? Like, you guys want to share that, or like keep a little secret along?
Yeah. Guys,
Mysterious na lang.
follow For the Future PH.
Ooh, right.
Shout out the FTF team. You guys are great.
Yeah. And I guess that about does it. So I just want to thank you, listeners, for tuning in to another episode of the Rockets Modern Life podcast. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to share with hashtag RML Podcast, and hit that follow on Spotify, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube so that you never miss an episode. And as always, I'll see y'all in the next one. Deuces.
Wow, really?
Wow.